really think that what makes your move very credible is because of the fact that the corporate media came down on you very hard as soon as you announced. Whereas these other organizations, again, don't have to name them, but wasn't even given any acknowledgement. Not only did they acknowledge yours, they wanted to make it very clear. Saw the article in the Daily Beast and a couple of other places where they basically are, trying to cast you as a heretic. And of course, that's the people who are afraid that you might actually turn this into something big are going to cast you as somebody who basically shouldn't be taken seriously. And so I really do think that what you have done, and this is something that we try to do, is just build as many of these coalition relationships, this broad spectrum. If you could talk about, because I really do think that if you were to get the likes of like a Marianne Williamson, a Joe Rogan, a Dave Chappelle, a Mark Cuban to really back what you're doing, I think this could take off like a rocket ship, to be honest, because I think people are looking for that path that, it's like they don't want to jump in the water. They don't know what the temperature is, but if it's safe, they'll get in.
They're scared.
They're scared.
They're very scared.
But if any momentum starts, if they believe that there's something to this and that we might be able to get somewhere, I'm telling you, I really think that people are looking for something, and this could really take off. What are your thoughts on the importance of those type of influencers that could really help build this thing out?
I think you're right on all accounts. I took any negative press I got with the launch of the Forward Party really, really positively. In large part because I marveled at the fact that people felt like they had to address it. You know what I mean? Like the main thing you'd fear is just that everyone ignores it and no one gives a shit. Which, by the way, is what happened when I decided to run for president back in 2017, 2018.
I loved listening to that. I loved listening to you tell this story about showing up at things. Like, it was some of it. It's really funny. Well, you read it. I listened. It was really funny. I'm sorry. I digress. Continue.
No, yeah, I tried to make it as honest and relatable as I could. So the contrast between being an anonymous presidential candidate, where everyone is like, who, what, like not even who, what, says no one even acknowledged it. Everyone ignored it. Whereas this time, even being attacked is a massive win because you're like, oh, people felt a need to address it. And it is now very mainstream. Like I just walk the streets of New York or any other place and they say, like, people just yell independent at me. Like everyone knows I started a third party. And so everyone is waiting and seeing, in the sense that if we get momentum, people will be super jazzed to jump on board because no one actually likes either the Democratic or the Republican. That's like the secret. Like,
it's true.
Yeah. So if we get a wind at our backs, like, we can grow to the moon for sure. It's been fun. It's like the early adopters are wonderful, amazing people. And some of the folks that you just named are very warm to it, truly.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about how the party works in conjunction with the current duopoly, because obviously this isn't something that happens overnight. Obviously, this isn't, people are not going to, we live in a closed primary state, right? So I'm not going to just unregister as Dem because then I don't get to vote in a primary. So like, we're still kind of stuck where we are, but how can this coexist and how can we support from where we are right now?
Yeah, to your point, Jen, and I say this very explicitly, you don't need to change your party registration because doing so would decrease your influence. And who wants that? Like our job has to be to enable it such that you can have different parties emerge. And there are two main ways we can do that. Number one, support candidates who are aligned, and they can be running as Democrats or independents or Republicans or Forward or whatever. But the truth is that if you ran as a forwardist right now, it doesn't help you that much. So most people won't choose to do it. It's very, again, practical. So we're going to support candidates. And one of the wonderful things is that I can support a candidate who's running under either ticket at this point, if they're great. I'm meeting with an independent tomorrow who's fantastic. So that's path number one. And path number two is supporting ballot initiatives, either locally or at the state level, that help make the process change around ranked choice voting or open primaries. And we can do that just as ordinary Americans. We could actually do that in not just our own community, but in other states if we decided to do so. So that can include donating, calling, volunteering, the usual array of activities to try and get something done. And you can do these things, again, without changing your party registration. This is an inclusive, popular movement. Everyone's welcome. Anyone who's fed up with stuff is welcome. And again, you don't need to be on board with anything other than the fact that the system itself needs to get fixed. And I know a lot of people that are fans of yours approach this from what you would consider the left, even though I try and avoid ideological buckets in this way. But you just heard my conversation with Brianna, who's very sympathetic. Anyone who is pissed off at the corporate Democratic Party and wants to see it change, like, let's just make these changes and then we can have different points of view emerge. Because I genuinely think if you unleashed the popular will, things look very, very different than they do now. Like, the corporate Democrats don't really speak for that many people.
So let's ask the hard question. Where are you on if you're going to take corporate money or not? Because our thing here is we're nonpartisan. We will platform people that are not beholden to corporate special interests. And that is something that people want to know up front. So where are you on that?
Well, we haven't accepted any money right now that's not from just like a normal human. It's just been grassroots donations. The maximum you can donate to the Forward Party hard pack right now is only $5,000. And everything we get, we're going to end up sharing so people can see who the individuals are. We're competing against an infrastructure that has, I don't know, like $6 billion, $14 billion. If someone were to come along and say, hey, Andrew, you're right, the duopoly is terrible, and I want to give you $100 million or whatnot, as long as I could say who the person was, I would take it, honestly.
Right, but I'm talking about, like, that's not from an industry. It's not from like Raytheon and the military pack or, Wall Street or Big Pharma. Like those kinds of.
We don't want to take anything from corporate players. We just want there to be a human involved.
Okay.
And Andrew, I agree. I mean, if Mark Cuban, for
right,
example,
if somebody like that wants to,
who's worth about $4 billion, decides, Andrew, I'm going to give you $100 million. I really believe in this project. I think it absolutely is necessary. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a person who is a forward thinker, no pun intended.
Well, look, Michael Bloomberg bought the Democratic Party, so why couldn't somebody buy?
Well, again, and it isn't about buying the party, it's about buying an idea. And if you believe in the idea, then there's no telling how far it could go. That's what I think a lot of people have a hard time differentiating between. Somebody can raise hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, just bundling a whole bunch of, individual PAC donations because they really believe in the cause. Whereas somebody who just works for, let's say Northrop Grumman or, Lockheed Martin decides, I'm going to write a check for 50 million because I don't want this, that, and the other thing. I think that's
nefarious.
Important. And one thing that I think is very important, Andrew, and we talk about this a lot, there really is a lot of camaraderie that I think has not really been tapped into between progressives and libertarians. I really think there's a lot of things that they agree on. There's obviously a lot of differences for sure, but I really think that there's a lot of core issues that are there that really could be harnessed. And you really cast a very wide net with the concept of the Forward Party. Can you talk about your perspective of the similarities that do exist between progressives and libertarians and the opportunity to bring more of them together?
Oh, for sure. I'm happy to say, supporters who consider themselves progressives and those who consider themselves libertarians. And one thing that definitely unifies them is that they don't think either of the two current parties is speaking for them. That they're both anti-corruption, to your point about all the corporate money and whatnot that's flooding in. They both want to see more of the resources flow to people and families and communities rather than stuck in the pipes. So that's something that a lot of people detest about our current system. And so hopefully if we can get the progressives and the libertarians aligned over the fact that, look, don't agree on everything, but we agree that we each deserve a voice, that there should be a major political party that represents that point of view, that is not getting suppressed and marginalized by the duopoly at every turn, by the media at every turn, then we really can build a majority pretty quickly. So it's been exciting. These ideological buckets, to your point, really end up being kind of overlapping for a lot of people. Folks talk about how politics isn't a spectrum, it's like a U, and you end up meeting again on the sides. It's, people talk about how a lot of Bernie supporters were kind of Trump sympathetic as one example, because they shared this kind of anti-institutional sentiment.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.